Hey guys, welcome back to Bookish Days. I'm 1/3 of your Tuesday, Alyssa, and this week we're talking about the best or worst so far of 2013. Rather than focus on just best or worst, I decided to choose my 3 from each category, and instead of saying worst, I'm just gonna call it the most disappointing because it's really hard for me to hate a book. There has to be a lot of things really wrong with it, and so far this year, knock on wood, I haven't come across any books that I hated, so we're just gonna go with disappointing. The first disappointing book for me was Son by Lois Lowry. Before you guys crucify me and get all up in arms, I just have to say that I read The Giver when I was very, very young. I was in elementary school and I'm in my mid-20s, so it's been quite some time. And The Giver has been put on such a pedestal for me. It's just such a wonderful book. It was one of the first books I truly fell in love with. And when I found out that Son was going to be a long-awaited sequel to it, I was so excited. I had the highest expectations, and unfortunately, it just didn't live up to it for me. A vast majority of my problem came from the fact that if you're going to read Son and truly enjoy it, you really do need to read the other 2 books in the Giver trilogy, and I hadn't read them at that point. So for most of the book, I was like, I have no idea what the heck they were referring to. I thought that most of Son was going to focus on Jonas and Gabriel's story, and it didn't, and I don't know, I was expecting something different. It was no fault of Lois Lowry. It was a good book, but it just wasn't what I was hoping for. The next disappointing book was Epic Fail by Claire Lazebnik. This is supposed to be a Pride and Prejudice retelling. It takes place in modern times, and again, no fault of Claire Lazebnik's, but I was just expecting something different. I was expecting something more true to the Pride and Prejudice Lizzie and Darcy story, and I felt like the characters just didn't cut it as teenagers trying to fit the roles of adults who have a lot more working against them. And I had heard such good things, and I read it and was just like, really? That just proves my point that I need to stay miles away from hype before I go into popular books, because inevitably I will be disappointed. My last disappointing read of 2013 so far is Walking Disaster by Jamie Maguire, which was the long-awaited companion novel to Beautiful Disaster, which was a book I absolutely adored. Now, all of my friends told me you should not set your sights super high for this because it is the same exact story, just told from Travis's perspective instead of Abby's, and I knew that. However, I just thought I was going to get such more insight from Travis, and I don't know, I really, really, really wanted to love this book, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't awful by any means. It just wasn't what I wanted. I don't know. And now on to my favorites. The first book that earns that title is Easy by Tamara Weber. Of course, Easy is a new adult story about a couple in college. However, Easy stands apart from the rest of the books in the genre because I felt as though the issues that the 2 characters were dealing with was a lot more realistic and substantial and worthy of as much trauma that the book had. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's just that I feel like I read a lot of new adult stories, and while couples do have to deal with problems, the problems that they deal with are really not that big of a deal. But in Easy, they have to deal with things such as rape and sexual violence, and that's a very real thing that happens to college-age students all the time, and it was just fantastic. Next, I have Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins. This, of course, is the story of a young girl who is a witch and cannot function in regular society, so she is sent to Hex Hall as kind of a reform school / boarding school for children of the supernatural who cannot keep their magic a secret. I was not expecting much of this book. I thought it was going to be something like a cheap knockoff of Harry Potter, and I was totally blown away. It was fun, it was light, it was quick. The story didn't take itself too seriously, and I just read it in a day. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. And lastly, of course, it has to be Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare, the last book in the Infernal Devices series, where we get the best resolution to a love triangle that I ever thought I would see in my entire life. literally everybody has to be happy with this ending. It doesn't matter if you are Team Will or Team Jem. And I'm just going to leave it at that for those few of you who have not read this series yet. Seriously, I've said this once and I will say it again. If you're not a fan of the Mortal Instruments series, that's fine. This series stands far superior to it, and this book was the best wrap-up to a series that I have read since the Deathly Hallows. Alright guys, that is it as far as my best and most disappointing of 2013. I would love to hear your thoughts on the books I talked about, or if you have books that I did not mention, I would love to hear your thoughts on those as well. Quickly before I go, I wanted to let you know about a giveaway I'm hosting over on my blog. I'm giving away a copy of Wither, and rather than just keep it to my personal channel or to my blog, I thought I would extend the invitation to you guys. So if you're curious, I will leave a link to it down below so you can go check it out. Alright guys, I will see you in 3 weeks. Bye!